This is the Real Estate Power Play Podcast, getting you the information that you need to be a successful real estate investor. Hosted by Mark Monroe, Ronald Walker, Gabe Rodarte, and me, Marty Grizzanti. Combined, we've done thousands of real estate transactions. So get ready for real stories and true case studies on finding deals, growing portfolios, and making money. Welcome to the show.
Hey guys, what's up? Well, welcome to the Real Estate Power Play Podcast. We have an awesome show going on today, and on behalf of Marty, Mark, Ronnie, all of us, what's up? We're excited to just help you in your business and grow. If you're a novice or if you've been doing this for a while, we just have so many good responses from people that ask questions, or they're DMing us, messaging us and saying, hey, let's talk about these other things. So we try to have on some of the best speakers that are out there doing stuff that's really cool and creative. So we have the man Seth here, who is with REI Tipster. He created so many other cool stuff. I don't want to mess up the introduction because like we were talking about before, he just does so many cool things. So what's up, man? How you been?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Good. So let's introduce you to our crew, to our people and our crowd. What do you do? How'd you get started? What are you doing now? Let's just go. Let's dig into this, man.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's kind of a loaded question, as you kind of alluded to, because every time people ask me that, I just kind of say it's kind of real estate stuff, because a lot of it is
in that direction.
Yeah, that's like what do you call it? The hub of the wheel that connects it all, but
right.
It's a few different things. So I guess one arm of it is land investing. That's kind of like the first type of real estate investing that I ever found success at, and I've kind of stuck with that over the years. The other big thing that I do now is retipster.com, not REI Tipster. About half of people out there think that it's retipster.com. And that's basically like a giant, I guess, library of head knowledge and lessons I've learned, and different tricks of the trade and strategies, and basically everything I know. Whenever I learn something new, I put it there, either as a blog post or a video or a podcast episode or something like that. And we've got other people that come on and share stuff as well. So it's kind of like a big, I guess, information outlet for real estate investors. A lot of it is kind of written from the standpoint of a land investor, but I do it in a way intentionally that it could also be taken and applied to houses or multifamily, or if there's any crossover, I try to make sure it's applicable to everybody out there who's in real estate, so more people can use it. So there's REI Tipster, and I'm getting into the self-storage business. I'm about to finish up my first new build of a new storage facility, so that's been a fun new adventure.
That's exciting.
And I definitely would not say I'm an expert at this, but I'm getting into note investing in terms of like buying existing notes from other people. So, and that's probably my latest thing that I've been messing around with. So yeah, that's kind of it in a nutshell, I think.
Got it. So this is an exciting world.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really enjoy about real estate investing in general is, you have the hard asset. You have a house, you have a piece of land, you have a storage facility, but really there's so many other fun and there's just great things that are happening outside of the actual property itself, right? So it's like just the operation side, it's the acquisition side, and your attorneys and the other people that you're connecting with, and the many other things. And so it's cool for you to have a resource for people to see these other aspects whenever you get involved, or whoever we talk to and says, man, I really want to get involved in real estate investing, or I want to learn this. You kind of go, okay, well, what part of this, right? Like, what do you mean? Where do you want to start? And then now you're doing self-storage, which is cool, because I have a buddy of mine that been pushing me to do self-storage for a while, and we have some property that we are just now getting into the planning out aspect of it for just basically doing ground up. So it's pretty fun. It's exciting stuff, right?
Yeah. It sounds like you're going down the path that I was about a year ago. So let me know.
Yeah, pretty much. Right.
Yeah.
So land. So you started off with land. Were you always doing land? Was that like, okay, I want to do land, or was it just one of those things that you fell into?
Yeah, good question. So I when I first heard about land, it was like 2008, I think, was when the idea first, ran across my computer screen. I was like, oh yeah, interesting. And initially, I thought about it the way that most people do, which was like, what? Like, why would I want to invest in land? That's weird. Like, what's the point?
Right.
Like, it's just dirt. Like, where's the income? And it's because I had a misconception that most people have when they hear about land. And I didn't understand like the actual strategy behind it. And the reason land makes sense, aside from the fact that it's usually a very simple type of property with no people living there. Nothing gets broken, stolen, or destroyed. It behaves itself. It's boring. All these things are very good things when you think about real estate. There's not a whole lot of surprises that come up and get you as long as you've done your due diligence. But aside from that, it's the acquisition strategy, understanding how to find an endless pool of sellers who are willing to sell their property at just crazy cheap prices. When I was getting started, like the typical offer that I would make to people would be anywhere from 10 to 30% of its market value. And people would say yes to this all the time.
Yeah.
And when you realize that you can buy land for that cheap, it starts to make sense, because if you buy anything for that cheap, it's not hard to make money on that thing. I mean, if you could go out and buy a $50,000 car for $10,000, you could probably sell the thing tomorrow, right? For $30,000 and make money on it. So it's the same kind of thing. It's just with land. And really the asset that you're buying and selling is a paper asset. It's a deed. So I don't have to hold inventory of this land. It's just on a deed, and I get the deed and I sell the deed. And it's an awesome business. And that's part of why it was the first thing I succeeded at. Because previously I had tried to, find deals on houses to flip and rental properties. And I just couldn't do it. Like I wasn't smart enough or something. I don't know what my problem was, but I didn't really have a sustainable, good, less competitive way to find deals on these properties. And even if I did get them, I would have been screwed, because like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't want to take out loans and stuff and race against the clock and pay a mortgage and try to sell this thing and deal with contractors who don't. I mean, the list goes on and on. And land just eliminates so many of those wrinkles, especially when you can buy it so cheap. And probably the one drawback, or not, maybe one or two drawbacks that land has that houses don't, is that depending on the economy and the market, it doesn't always work this way, but a lot of times land is a little bit slower to sell than a house would be. Even when you're listing it for a huge discounted price and offering seller financing, it can just inherently take a little bit longer.
Right.
And when I say longer, I mean like maybe 3 to 6 months would be a normal time frame to sell a vacant lot. Whereas a house, on average might sell faster than that.
Right.
And a lot of this stuff depends, I guess. But the other drawback to land would be, depending on what kind of strategy you're doing and how long you're holding it and that kind of thing, there are some tax advantages, but not as many. And the main one is like depreciation. Like there's no depreciation to write off with vacant land. There's lots of capital gains to pay if you're buying and selling land for cash. But I mean, if the profit margin is big enough, it's okay. You're making a lot of money anyway. But it's kind of one of those things. But aside from those kind of negatives, I can't think of many things about land that I don't like. It just has a lot of benefits to bring to the table. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So when you started doing this, and was this kind of like your local area where you're kind of going, man, are you the type of guy that's just like, I'm going for the nation, I want this thing? Or you're like, you know what, let's aim small, let's miss small, I'm going to like sniper this baby?
Yeah. So, I'm not saying this is the best way to be, but I was the latter. I was the aim small, miss small. And I thought that I had to do this in my backyard. So I started looking in all the counties that surrounded the county where I lived, which is Kent County, Michigan. So I looked not in Kent County where Grand Rapids is, but all of the rural areas around that. And I just started calling up county offices, trying to get their delinquent tax lists and sending out postcards. And before I bought any one of those properties, I had it in my head that I had to drive out and like physically see the property with my own two eyes and like walk on it to make sure it was there. And and it's not that wasn't useful. Every time I did that, I was like, oh, okay, interesting. This looks a little bit different than I envisioned. It's good to know.
Right.
I would take pictures and all this stuff. But after a couple of years of doing that, it was like, every time I do this, it's kind of a boring trip. Like I get to the property and I mean, it's, I guess, interesting to see it, but it's not like I need to do this to make this
Right.
work. And it was around that time when I had bought and sold a, decent sized property in northern Michigan on Lake Huron with about 500 feet of beach frontage. I bought it for $4,500 and I sold it for $45,000 within about 5 months. And
Nice.
to this day, I've still never seen that property. So that was
Nice.
a moment when the light or the switch kind of flicked in my head and it was like, you know what? I don't actually ever need to see these things because all the information I need, I can get from Google Earth, from different data services. If I really need eyes on the property, I can call a local agent or somebody and have them go out and take pictures
Right.
for me. And that's another really awesome thing about land is that with a house, there's a lot more things that you need to inspect. Like you have to get inside the thing and like understand the condition and are there weird smells in here and all this stuff. But with land, it's just dirt. And anything you need to see, you can see from the road for the most part, unless it's a huge property.
I want to add something that's so powerful to this, man. Like one of the coolest things that in any industry, like as you have pivoted to other classes, have you used also that same model though? Like what we call it is just getting the reps in. Like I've been, I'm 42 years old. Last year, my wife and I were like, we need to start going to the gym. We need to start like, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so now I really get the whole point of getting the reps in, but man, you got a ton of reps in and now no one can snow you over. No one's really like you can't be had in any way. And so do you suggest that in general for most people of just like, look, man, you just got to get your reps in. I know you don't really need to go out to this property, but have you seen any property in your whole life before? Well, no, I've never bought anything. Okay. Let's just get some reps in so you have a concept of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. And there's it's a good point because there are a lot of people who they might like see, I mean, to like talk up myself, but they might see where somebody like me is at and how I'm able to do stuff a lot faster and, delegate things to other people and hold them accountable and have them do things for me and, go after certain sizes of properties and that kind of thing. And they'll be like, okay, I want to do that from day one.
Right.
And it's not that you can't, but the reason I'm able to do it with a lot more ease is because, yeah, you're right. I mean, put the reps in. And on the first year of me doing this business, I did about 30 deals, which I don't know if that's a lot or not, but I learned a lot more than I earned in that first year. And I made money from pretty much every deal, but it wasn't like I was making, 5 or 6 figures per deal back then. It was more like $1,000 here, $3,000 there, and wasting a lot of time just to kind of learn the different ways to not do it. And understand like
to ask, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's one thing for you to just take advice from somebody like me when I just tell you, do it this way, not that way. But sometimes, I don't know, it's helpful to like learn for yourself to understand like, oh yeah, okay. Like it's almost like the pain of experience is a very powerful teacher and you learn lessons that stick when you just have felt it firsthand. So I definitely learned it that way.
So are you seeing, this is way off topic, but I love this conversation because we get people, you probably have people ask you all the time of many questions. Hey, what about this, these other stuff? And I think that there's this part where we have to just encourage people going, look, I know we want to jump through this. I know you want to get to that end, but we have to go through these steps. I just need you. Like whenever we would do a ton of working with, like, so we ran a networking event up here. I did all these different things. And I would just tell people all the time, it's like, just give me 100 properties driving for dollars. Like you'll learn so much. Just go drive for dollars. You'll just learn. Oh, wow. What about this? Like questions you never thought about even asking just by going by this stuff. And so that's something that's really empowering in today's time, because I do see a lot of the technology is great. You could do a lot of stuff from Google, like just from, Street View, right? That whenever you started, Google Street View wasn't readily available like it is right now. I mean, you're not zooming in and you can see through all this stuff as you can do today. So I just wanted to make that hint for those people to it's a golden thing that Seth is talking about, that is probably why he's so successful right now, is that he put in the reps and the time. So speaking of, you do the land, you put in this time, you figure out the secret sauce that works for you and your family and your business and everything. What happens next? What's the rest of this journey? So what's this 2010 or 2012, 13, 14? Like, what happens?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, for me, and I guess I can articulate this pretty well now because I have thought through this for years, but back then I was kind of just in like, I don't know what the right word is, starvation mode. It's not really the right word, but I just needed to make money. I had a full-time job that was paying me not that great at the time, but it did afford me the time to pursue this thing on the side. And I was just like, I need to get somewhere. Like, I cannot keep doing this job the rest of my life. Like,
Right.
it's okay, but that cannot be all there is to this life. So I was just trying to keep my head above water and just make money in any way that I could from these land deals. And so I was just basically pursuing everything that came across my desk. Like, I made offers on it all. And in time, realized that you can spend pretty much the same amount of time pursuing a big deal that makes $50,000 as a small deal that makes $5,000 or $1,000. And there's sort of a different strategy and mentality that goes into finding those bigger deals. But if you can figure that out and start intentionally going after that kind of thing, you can just basically make a lot more money with a lot less time. And even like understanding what you should be spending your time on in your business. Like with land, one unique thing about it is that because a lot of these deals are so cheap, especially the ones I was going after in the beginning, I would close a lot of these without a title company because there are no loans involved. And really all that's happening is a deed is being signed from one party to another. So if you can figure that out and understand the title searching process, how to identify in the title history if there's any issues, you can close a lot faster and without a title company and save yourself, several $100s. So, I would basically just spend tons of time doing that because they were cheaper deals. But once you go after bigger deals, the cost of a title company to do that work for you is so easy to justify, and they'll take a huge amount of work off your plate. They'll go a lot slower, but they'll, basically just freeze up your time. So basically just figuring out like, what should I be spending my time on? And like, what is really important for me to be involved in that process? And ultimately, I think, you can outsource pretty much anything, but there are certain things that, I don't know, maybe you enjoy the most, or you feel like it's most important for you to be involved in the decision-making. So just understanding like, where should I be working on this versus hiring a VA or partnering with somebody else so that they can jump in and do a lot of this work for me. So, and a lot of people go different directions with that, depending on what they enjoy doing. But yeah. What was your original question? Am I answering that?
The question was totally off. Way to go. No. The question is, what happens during this timeline? So you figure out how to use your time wisely. You're going after bigger deals now.
Yes. Right? Sorry. Yeah, it's crazy how I veered off there.
No, it's perfect though. This is like, we can go on the rest of this podcast. We could go about what's the best way to use our time, because I think one of the things for me that's transformed my thought process is definitely how I've used my time and how it's more efficient sometimes for me not to do anything, because it just frees up my brain and my thoughts. And so I rather pay for that, and it's like, I don't really feel very productive, but I am having time to think, and that's perfect. Mm-hmm. So, but we could go down that, like we definitely could go down that. So I want to hear their story though, bro. Like I want to hear like what happens to you in like this next era. Like now you figured the secret sauce, you figured out your time, you're doing bigger deals.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. Then what happens?
Yeah. So it was around 2012. That was kind of a milestone-ish year, just because at that time, one of my friends had introduced me to this blogger named Pat Flynn, who was running a blog. He still runs it, I think, called smartpassiveincome.com. And has nothing to do with real estate, but I was just watching what he was doing, and he was putting out this really good content, stuff that was worth paying for. But he never seemed like he was selling anything. But he also was posting these income reports on his site where he would show how much money he was making and where he was making it from. guy was making tons of money, like 6 figures a month doing this stuff. And I was just like, what? Like, what is going on? Like, he doesn't seem like he's selling stuff. He's giving away really good stuff and he's making tons of money. And I
How's
was,
this happening?
I was digging into it more. And at the time, anyway, he was doing a lot of it through affiliate links and promoting stuff that he was using. But the way he was doing it was really cool because he wasn't coming across like, you need to do this. This is the one right way. It was more just, here's how this thing works and here's why I'm using it. But there's other stuff out there too. And I wish you the best with whatever you do. But if you want to use this, here's an affiliate link. And that's it. And I felt like I related to him a lot because his personality seems similar to mine because I'm a terrible salesperson. I just don't know how to do it. To this day, I'm really not good at it. But I do know how to explain things to people and take complicated topics and make them simpler and easier to understand because I'm a pretty slow learner. So if I'm able to understand it, that means it has to be dumbed down. And I basically need to be able to explain it to a fifth grader. So at that time, I thought, what if I could be like the Pat Flynn for real estate investors, where I basically just take the things that I've learned at the School of Hard Knocks and just serve it up to people and find, random ways to sort of intentionally plug the things that I'm using. But nobody's required to buy anything. They can still learn a lot just for free. And so that was when I started RE Tipster. And when I first started doing it, I didn't know if I would really like it. I never really enjoyed just writing for writing's sake. But once I got into it, I was like, this is fun. Like, I really like this. And I started making videos and it started resonating with people and got lots of feedback. And it really became like a whole new business for me. And it's something that I still spend a lot of time on to this day. And it's awesome. Like I can't wait to start work every day because I just really enjoy, I guess part of what helps is that I know what it's like to struggle. Like I struggled on so many things, even in my land business where I felt like I had a competitive advantage. It was still hard in a lot of ways. And just being able to take those difficulties and be like, here's the solution, check this box, boom, do this and it'll work out. It's really awesome to see other people who are struggling and like, they get it and it works for them and they're able to pay for their kids' college or quit their job or buy the car they want or whatever it is. And to know that like I played any role in that is an amazing thing. So,
Totally.
yeah. So yeah, that's, I guess that was a big part of the journey. And then it was like 2019-ish was when self-storage became like a serious focus where I wanted to kind of go to that next stage. And for me, self-storage is what I call it's path number 2, where I take a lot of the money that I've earned through land and I can park it in something that sort of throws off income permanently. And as a land flipper, that's something that there are certainly ways to create recurring income if you sell properties with seller financing, but permanent recurring income, that can be done too, I guess, if you lease the land out, but it's harder to do. Whereas if you buy something like a self-storage facility, that's exactly what it is.
Right.
And so the idea was to basically take the cash from the cash machine of the land business and plug it into path 2, which is something that just continues to work. So that's kind of the path that I'm on now, is trying to funnel cash from path 1 to path 2 and keep the money coming in, whether I'm actively working on that or not.
That's awesome. So guys, this is the whole strategy of, you buy 4 houses and you trade it in to buy a hotel, the monopoly way, the rich dad way. Everyone has their own different path of how they go about doing it. And this is, it's cool to see yours because it's not normal, right? In our world, it's really like the single family. You want to do this and you move in, you buy a 4-plex or you buy a 16 unit or whatever. And all these different things. And then you hear someone like you who's go, no, well, I chose a totally different route, and it's like every now and then you talk to that money lender note buyer guy. And it's like, I started with this. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. I started with buying notes whenever I was 25 years old. So I love this business because everything's possible.
Yeah.
So what are you doing now that's like really exciting with the market and what's happening? We're in March 2023. Are you seeing something for yourself that you're going, man, I'm just really excited to knock these things out and help people go to this next level? Are you seeing that right now? And what is it?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think part of the struggle for me is like, I don't know exactly where the market is going. I feel like we keep hearing about this recession that's going to happen, and it
Yeah.
doesn't really seem to happen. So I don't know. Is it going to happen? I don't know. But yeah, I'm basically just trying to, at this point anyway, get this storage facility up and running and stabilized and figure out like, is this going to work? Like I'm basically in an experiment right now. Like I don't know if I'm
I
even going
love
to
it.
like this.
Right.
I started this thing on my own, just assuming I was going to pay for everything with no partners. But kind of at the 11th hour, a partner came into it. He's another facility owner in the area, and he's got a minority interest in this facility, and he's going to manage it for me. So I don't have to spend all my time managing the thing. Not that it's terribly time consuming in the first place, but I can just kind of give that ball to him, and hopefully that will run well. But yeah, I mean, 6 to 12 months from now, I'll know a lot more about, do you want to buy another one? Do you want to build another one? Do you want to get
Right.
out of this altogether? What does the future look like? So that part, I'm kind of, just sitting on the edge of my seat and holding my breath to see how that goes. And for the land business, so I'm trying to find ways to, and I know exactly what I have to do. It's just a matter of actively going in that direction, but basically looking for ways to stay active in a lot of land deals without spending so much of my time doing it. And one way I'm trying to do that is investing in land notes. Other ways you can do it is by partnering with other people, funding their land deals and that kind of thing. I haven't gotten into that a whole lot yet, but kind of mildly interested in it. I think I would need to find somebody that I really trust, somebody who really knows what they're doing, not like a total newbie who it's like, this is my first deal. Come do this with me.
Right.
They kind of have to be a proven entity on some level. But again, like that's kind of a whole other business too, is branding yourself as a funder or a hard money lender,
Right.
private money lender, which I don't know that I have the time or energy to really dive into that. So I don't know, but that's another idea I might be pursuing at some point.
That's so cool, man. And I like the way that you brought it up, because every time we come up with something, I'm like, this is a whole nother business idea. Like it's a great
Yeah.
idea and it does work and it can throw off money and it's a business. That's what a business is supposed to do. And then you go, okay, but do I really want to spend the time and energy, or where do I want to focus the energy at? And
Yeah.
the older I get, I like to say the wiser I get, but the older I get, I'm really understanding that, things take time, especially with the marketing that you're doing, the stuff to have stuff come in. You're looking at 90 to 180 days for things to really start turning around, for you to start having enough experience and volume to do things.
Mhm.
So that's stuff that I look at with my team, and I'm going, how long is it going to take for this idea to really take off? And then, we'll go through all the matrix and stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
so that's awesome. So now you're doing store. I love the whole storage thing, man. Like, you probably have a million friends and stuff also, but man, if you need anything on that, I just have so many different storage guys that man, they're just so helpful, bro. Just like seeing the concepts and seeing everything that goes on and helping me go through the numbers. And for those who are listening, if you're looking at moving or pivoting from single family or from the first asset that you're in, and you're looking at doing like a more of a longer term passive asset, which I strongly agree. I think Seth does also, that, you don't want to just keep on creating. You got to have something that's residual or quasi residual. It's like an active residual, I guess. You got to start branching out. So what would you suggest? Like, what do you do with your group of people of saying, okay, you have this first machine, you're kind of making something happen. Have you thought about doing what? Like, what do you advise people to start doing in the beginning? Like, I don't know what I want to do, Seth. All I know is you're doing storage, multifamily. You got, apartments. You have industrial buildings. Like, how would you suggest somebody to move on to phase 2?
Yeah. Well, one interesting thing to point out is, phase 1, whatever that is, the act of creating a money machine, basically, that prints cash in some way. It doesn't even have to be real estate. I know a guy, I just met him about a month ago. He's close to 100 million net worth, where all he does is buy triple net lease buildings, like bank buildings and daycare buildings, with a single tenant where they take care of everything. And that's his phase 2 or path 2, where he's buying the long-term permanent cash flow. And I was like, so like, what was phase 1 for you? Like, did you flip houses or something? He's like, no, I've got a toy store, and then we sell toys.
That's awesome.
So it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you don't have to. So basically it doesn't have to be real estate. You just, but I guess what I wouldn't suggest for most people is jumping into path 2 without having a path 1 first, because I've seen people try to do that, where they just try to buy one rental property at a time with the small trickle of extra cash they get from their W-2, and it'll take them 30 years to get there, if they get there.
Right.
And it's just a much slower way to do it. You can, but I think if you can find some way, whatever kind of business that is, or whatever kind of side hustle will throw off a lot of cash, it'll just get you there a lot faster. So for me, land flipping made a ton of sense, because I mean, I've kind of explained the reasons why, but if you're somebody who, maybe you're a general contractor, or you're a builder and you understand land flipping and costs, house flipping and costs, basically just looking at like, what are your unique gifts? What is your unfair advantage? What's something you can do relatively easily that the average person can't seem to do for some reason? That could be a clue in terms of what you should be doing for your phase 1 business, whatever that might be. And yeah, I think everybody has some kind of unique genius that makes them good at something. It's just having the being able to step outside yourself and look at your situation and just observe, like, what am I able to pull off that I don't see other people pulling off regularly? Because maybe that's a clue about what I'm good at and what I should be pursuing. And also, like, what do you enjoy? Because if you enjoy it, you're probably going to be much more likely to get good at it, as opposed to if you hate that thing. So
yeah, man, that's so good. I know this sounds kind of deep, but I call it the gold I see in you. And so whenever like there's a teacher or there's somebody who's like, man, I want to get involved, or they're moving to their phase 2, I'm like, okay, what do you have now that you've created, that you've already been doing? W-2 job. If you're 25, 35, 20 years old, you've done something with your life. Just start writing that stuff down and realize, like, I don't mind being on the calls. I don't mind doing it. Like, I enjoy talking to people all day long. There is breaks that I need to take and mental stuff, but I love the interaction with people. We used to run the North Houston Real Estate Investors, was one of the largest groups that we network with. 200 people get in the room, and I love doing those things. But I just pivot that over and go, on commercial side of things, which is what we're going more into, there's huge amounts of information and operations and stuff that needs to happen. I'm not really the operations guy. That's not really my thing. And I like, that's what you said of like, man, I found someone to kind of, I'm excited. I want to jump into this. I want storage, but I'm going to find someone to help me offset some of these things that I just don't enjoy doing. And I don't know it sounds like you did the same thing, but in the beginning, I was just trying to make things work, Seth. Like, it was like, I don't care. Like you didn't have a choice. Like, I didn't have a choice of like what I didn't even stop to think about what I didn't enjoy doing, because it was all a grind. Right. And it was all just, it was just just make it happen, buy another house, just do another deal. And it wasn't until after a while, I'm like, wow, there's other stuff outside of this. This is amazing. So those are some of the things that I advise, like that I would help people do, is like, man, just write it out. Just, just dream bigger, write it out and say, if you have an idea of what would you want to do, would it be someone who's plugging on the phone all the time? If it's someone that's out there networking all the time, is it someone who's in front of spreadsheets quite a bit and you love this stuff? If you're like the stuff of what Seth is doing, man, he's an odd character. I'm gonna lie, man. Like, I've done what you've done, and just giving the amount of content you give, dude, it is a huge give to our whole community, right? And so just thank you so much for all that you're doing, because I know how much work it is, and I know how much time you put into it, and I know that you've had to figure out some type of systems and operations in just the Tipster site and what you guys do. So you guys really need to go there. So it's retipster.com, right? I got it right.
You got it. Yeah, you got it, man.
Yeah. And I'm just looking through and I'm like, man, there's so much great stuff. I love the format of everything that you're doing and the giving. What, just going through this site and going through what you give, what is something there that you would advise someone to go, hey, look, when you connect with us, these are things that I want to provide for you. Like, what is the things that you're like, I want to make sure you have the info to what? Run?
What's that?
To just keep running forward and just your first steps? Or is it more of like,
well, I guess if you're, kind of depends on where you're coming from, like what you're trying to learn about. I guess if you're trying to learn about like the land flipping business specifically, there is one blog post I put together that was intended to be sort of like a little course in a blog post with just all free stuff where it links to other stuff on the site. I mean, pretty much, I don't know if I'd say everything you would ever need to know, but a lot of what you'd ever need to know about land flipping is somewhere on RE Tipster. But the problem is it's all over the place. It's not organized necessarily. But this blog post is called, if you go to landflippinglifecycle.com, let me quick make sure that works. Landflippinglifecycle.com. Does it forward to the right place? Still waiting. Yes, it does. So there's a video and basically step-by-step instructions on like, what do you do? Like, what's step one? How do you do this? How do you get the list? How do you send the mail? What do you say? How do you set up the infrastructure? And on and on. So you can totally check that out. If you're into like self-storage or other aspects of real estate, like, how do you sell properties faster? How do you just find more deals, more opportunities? All that stuff is on RE Tipster. So go check it out. Just poke around, look around a little bit. And I guess the thing that I appreciate your kind words, by the way, about the content, because something that I think Seth Godin wrote some book about this. I forget which book it was. He's got so many books, but one of them is about this idea of anything you're going to do in life, be the best at that. Like, make the decision that you're not going to be one of these average people somewhere in the middle. Like, you will be the best person at that thing, so that anytime a person thinks of this thing, whatever it is that you do, you are the first name that comes to their mind because you're the best. And I guess best can be a little subjective sometimes, but that's kind of been the mentality that I have tried to use. I don't make content just to make content. Like, we don't put noise on RE Tipster. Like, it's got to be profound. I have to believe that thing can possibly change somebody's life, like send them in a new direction. It has to be worth paying for, or we don't put it out there. So that's basically just the mentality that I try to take. And sometimes it works. Sometimes people still don't care, but at least that's sort of what we're aiming for. And I think a lot of blogs and stuff, the ones that are still out there, they just don't have that mentality. It's more like, here, this is some SEO play. Maybe we'll catch some keywords and people will find us that way. That's not really what we're doing. We're trying to make it a life-changing resource for anybody who lands on it. So, so I guess if you go there, be prepared to be impressed, because I think you will be if you really dig into it and try to find some answers you're looking for.
That's awesome. Guys, we're going to put this in the show notes also. I'm breezing through here. What is it? It's like 11 processes. Goodness gracious, my friend. Yeah, 11 steps, right? Man, guys, this is a lot of content. So look, dude, we have done stuff like this. We have helped many people out. I'm telling you, and we have helped others create their content. And I'm telling you, man, this is freaking amazing. So guys, join this, just connect with him in any way. Are you doing DMs still? Are you still having people connect with you on Facebook, social media, all the other stuff? Or
yeah. If you go to any social platform and search for RE Tipster, you'll find, the RE Tipster pages and profiles and stuff. I guess, Facebook is probably the one that I am most responsive to, just because I'm there the most. Instagram is one that I've kind of outsourced, so that's probably not the best way to get a hold of me. Or you can just go to RE Tipster and scroll to the bottom. There's a little contact thing in the footer. It's kind of hard to find, but if you go all the way down, you'll see it, and you can just email me directly through that. So, yeah.
Sweet. Well, man, I appreciate you joining. This has been really good, man. I thank you so much. And for those who are part of our community, thank you so much. If you have any questions, if you guys want to talk about other things like we've been getting, let's go after it, man. Let's go take this. So I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.
This has been another episode of Real Estate Power Play, guiding real estate entrepreneurs to a brighter future. If you liked what you heard, consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcast, or follow us on YouTube at Real Estate Power Play.